Okay, my first guest tonight. My first guest is the star of his own series on another network. Actually, it airs tomorrow night. It's called Billy, and he's originally from Scotland and a very amusing man. Would you welcome Billy Connolly? Bill? Good to see you, William.
Yeah, it's great to be. It's an extraordinary feeling.
Really?
Yeah, the Johnny Carson show. I thought you'd quit by now, you see.
No, we're still here. We're hanging on
to...
to...
it was you, I was delighted.
We're hanging on till May 22nd.
I've never seen you the right way up before.
Really? Are you
No, I'm always in bed like that watching. Wasn't there a disease from watching you?
Somebody, some years ago, some medical magazine actually came out for people who watched the show leaning on, I guess, on their ear or something. And they said it's from watching late-night television.
I remember that. Yeah, I've been watching you for a long time. Yeah. It's very strange being here.
Yeah, you're from Scotland. You're born in Scotland.
I was born in Scotland, yeah.
Now, you're known very well in England. Did you have a television show there?
No, I've never been in television in Britain. This kind of... British television is different from American television. And they're more into the serious side of things, you know. And I was always a very hairy person, and a long beard and long hair. And I looked a bit like Charles Manson, and they never really trusted me very much. And my subject matter was always a bit risque, so they kind of avoided me, and they found my language a bit strong. But they like sincere people, you know, and deeply sincere. They tend to mistake sincerity for talent, you know. And they have dreary poets on, blah-de-blah-de-blah. But the people that but I didn't ever want to be. You see, in British television, I'll tell you another funny thing. You may have noticed this when you were there. Is that it finishes in the evening. It comes to an end. Well, that's the end of the programmes. Good night.
Us, we're so commercially oriented in this country, everything goes off at 8:50, 9:30. In England, the show gets off when it gets off.
Yeah, good night.
Say thank you, good night.
Go to bed. And do as you're told. And they all go away. But in Scotland is such a weird place. The television, there used to be a guy, I don't know where he is now, but the programmes would finish about 11. And this man would come on and say, well, that's the end of the programmes for tonight, and be sure to put the lights out and unplug the television. It's a fire hazard. And for those of you who live alone, just make sure your doors are tightly bolted. I mean, it's the last thing on earth you're going to say to some poor guy.
Scare him to death before they go to bed. And be sure and don't look out the window.
Yeah, and be sure to switch off your TV. When was a television a fire hazard? Have you ever heard of a television bursting into flames?
Not really, no.
So I wanted to be the announcer and say, well, good night, and if you're lonely, well, all the best, lock up, and then say good night. And just when you think the guy's going to switch off the TV, go, get away from that television! Lie down! Behave yourself!
That's funny. You know, in England, they call talk shows chat shows, right?
Yes,
the chat shows.
You see, that's the sincerity. You chat about things.
Chat.
Let's have a little chat about the roses and the rhododendron.
You know, our show played in England for a while, and then for about a year or something like that, and it didn't...
you see, they cut it up. I'd been in America, and I knew what your show was like, but they sliced it up. Your tie kept changing in the middle of the programme, and they wondered what you did. They used to write in and say, what does he do?
Well, that's come up... that's come up here, too. Perfect. No, you know what they did in England? I told them when they did it, I wasn't really for it, because I said, you know, the show is so American, and I said, if you play it every day like we do here, I think the English will get on to the rhythm of the show. But you're right, they were playing it once a week at some ungodly time, and then they
sliced it up. So you were always away over there.
Right.
You were never up here. You didn't do your little funny bits you do here. So they thought your job was to sit there and stop the couch from going...
Another of his many duties, that's right. No, it's too bad. I think the show would have caught on, but, you know, it has to be on a daily basis, so they get used to it.
Yeah, but you see, they're a bit scared of change.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what you hear in Britain a lot. You say, did you enjoy that movie? No, I didn't like it. And the guy will say, but it was true. It was I don't care if it was true. No. It was rotten.
Yeah. You know? Because it was true, he liked it.
It was rotten and true. You see, it's that sincere, but he means well. I don't care. He's not good.
It stinks.
It's like Kelly, the poet. He's
Kelly, yes. Famous English poet, Kelly.
Yes, romantic poetry. Good night, my dear, and sweet repose. Lie on your back and you won't squash your nose. Sincere Valentine's Day.
There was an old hermit named, well, we don't even want to get into that. Are we going to have time to do this, the story? Somebody told me you've got a marvelous story, but it needs a little time.
It's years long.
Is it years?
There was a woman falling off a bus. Because
can you do it in 5 minutes?
No, I doubt that.
Oh, you can't?
No.
That's a long story.
It was an extraordinary thing that happened I was on you know those double-deck buses in Britain?
Yeah.
I was sitting inside. I was just trying to explain to people that funny is weird. But sometimes you laugh at things that deeply and desperately cruel.
Yeah.
And this woman came downstairs, and I've been laughing for 20 years. Because I was only a boy when she came downstairs and was on the platform of the bus. And the conductor and the driver were arguing down at the pointed end of the bus. And we were going down a hill real fast, and there was a fork in the road, like that. And we were taking the right. The bus was like 4 inches off the ground, hurtling. This woman, there's a pole on the platform. You know, it's kind of open at the end of the bus. These British buses, there's no door. So she came downstairs and grabbed the pole. And she had a little shopping bag and a hat and a coat. And I was inside, and she's looking that pleading way at me, and I couldn't help her. The bus took the right fork. She took the left. And I was sitting, and I could, you know that slow motion? She was in mid-air going at the same speed as us. With a bewildered look, you know, and slowly going towards the ground. And eventually she got there, and she took off. You know, her feet hit the ground. And she's running at 60 miles an hour. And she shot up the other street. And we shot down this street. And I never saw her again. And to this day, I often say, is she running still? And what did she say when she got home? Is she making her husband's dinner? I ran at 70 miles an hour today. Oh, shut up. Get dinner.
Comedy and tragedy. Very close. Very close. Yeah.
It's very odd, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I think Lenny Bruce said comedy is tragedy plus time.
You're right.
And it's absolutely right. Like most of the things he said are absolutely right. I think he described it by hitting a dog with your car. And the thing goes, whoa, and runs up a street. You go, oh, the poor thing. But when you get to work and you say, you should have seen this dog. You should have seen the expression in his face.
You're right, though, about tragedy in time, because I'll tell you a perfect illustration. Every time we do a joke about Abraham Lincoln, no matter how funny we think it is, the audience still doesn't laugh, because he was such a revered figure, and he was killed by an assassin. The time hasn't gone far enough yet to get a joke out of Lincoln. We try him all the time.
Absolutely. But I admire people who keep trying until it gets funny.
Now, here's a joke that I did for years. I want to see your sense of humor if you like this. Remember this joke? Right. The scene is in darkest Africa. It's right on the equator. Temperatures may be 135 degrees. This fetid swamp. Air is close, overpowering. Birds aren't even singing in the trees. Animals aren't moving. And standing in the middle of this fetid swamp on this atrociously hot day are two hippopotami. And the water is up to here. And one of them turns to the other one and says, you know, I just can't get it through my head that it's Thursday. Now, you see? See, not enough time. Not enough time. I always like that joke, and it always gets that kind of...
Oh, yes. Yes, is that supposed to be amusing? What is it?
I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be mean, but not laughing.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw that in a magazine as a cartoon.
Yes, exactly.
But they weren't in a swamp, they were sitting like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Maybe it'll lose something from the printed page.
So maybe the person saw you tell it and thought they'd try it another.
Yeah.
I don't know.
English have a different sense of humor, don't they?
They have indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Scottish... Well, I think people used to have different sense of humour. But video and satellites and all that, everybody's the same. But I liked it when you could maybe tell a joke and say, you're from Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
Nebraska. And then you would hear it 20 years later, or 15 years later, in Texas, and it'd be the same joke.
Yeah,
it'd become a Texan joke, and it was funny still.
Right.
Things used to be... But I think everybody's much the same now, and I think the world is a wee bit poorer for it.
And a little more sophisticated, too.
Aye,
yeah.
aye. But I think it's a good thing, you know. I think we live in brilliant, stunning, happy, jolly times, you know. Oh, aye. Oh, yeah, I love it.
Well, you do your part to make it that way, too.
Oh, I love it. I hope so. I try my very best.
Anyway, we're going to take a break. We're coming right back. I just can't get it through my head that it's Thursday.